Editor's Desk is your number one place to motivate yourself, express yourself, and amplify your impact. Our amazing hosts and guests share their stories to help you get where you want to be and where you need to be. And now, on to the show.
Welcome to the Editor's Desk. I'm your host, Brenda Warren, the Solutionist. Today, I plan to have my very special guest, Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, with me. But unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, Dr. Betsy couldn't join us. So today, I'm going to tell you all about me. Sometimes life throws you a curveball and you just have to roll with it. No matter what happens, you just make it happen. So today I thought I'd take this opportunity to answer some of the questions that I've received since I've been sitting here at the editor's desk. One of the questions I often get is, why do I have this angel up here? This angel is a reminder of who I am and whose I am. This angel's been all over the world, y'all. It's a little dime store trinket, but it reminds me to keep the faith. And today, y'all, I needed all the faith I could muster. It started this morning when it was raining and I couldn't get my steps. Y'all know how I like getting my steps, but it just wasn't happening. And then I got in the gym and stubbed my toe. You see where this day is going? Had homework to do and then my computer wouldn't work, but that's okay. After that, I went on to continue my day pretty much uninterrupted. And then I got here, prepared for the editor's desk, and unfortunately, the technology gremlins decided I needed to go solo. So, in the spirit of no opportunity wasted, I thought I'd answer a few questions. And if y'all will bear with me, I'll look on my sheet and think of, or actually look at some of the questions I've been asked since I've been here at the editor's desk. And it's a good thing I had pulled them out just in case. I don't know why. I guess I thought I might need them. One of the questions is, are you married? Yes, I am married, but I'm pending a divorce. After 23 years of marriage, we decided to go our separate ways, but it is amicable. Is that how you say amicable? Did I mess that word up? Yeah, I messed it up, but it'll be okay. The other question is, do you have children? Yes, I have a son. His name is Alex, and he is fabulous, 19 years old and starting his own business. Do you have any pets? Yes, I have 3 fabulous little guinea pigs. One named S'mores, he's a boy. Another named Misty, and another named River. They're both girls. They are pampered pets for sure. The other question is, where are you finding the guests that you have? I'm fortunate enough that I have a lot of friends that I met over the years and in an event that was called the Be on TV Challenge. So I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of people that are professionals and entrepreneurs that want to come on and tell you, the viewers, all about what they do. It's a fabulous group of people that are starting their own endeavors and launching their own businesses. So this is a great opportunity here at the Brooklyn Cafe and Amp Media Productions to amplify their businesses. And if you're looking to amplify your business, you should contact Freddie and Dawn here at Amp Media Productions and find out how you too can bring your business to the forefront and get on TV as well. Oh, I like this question right here. What would you be doing if you weren't sitting behind the editor's desk? Well, if I wasn't sitting here behind the editor's desk, I'd be out walking in my driveway doing this on Facebook like I used to do. Or I'd be sewing in my sewing room, one of my favorite pastimes of all times, maybe even reading a book. This question says, how did you get on the editor's desk? Dawn invited me to be on the Brooklyn Cafe TV show, and that's how this all started. It's an opportunity that I will treasure for the rest of my life. This other question is, who does your hair? My hair is done by none other than the fabulous Miss Debbie Hartgrove. She is a braider extraordinaire, and she keeps these things popping. How long were you in the Marine Corps? I was on active duty for 20 years and I served all over the world because the other part asked me, where did I serve? I'm fortunate enough to say that I've been to Japan, the Azores, Spain, Germany. I've been stationed in North Carolina, in California, in South Carolina, and many other places that I probably don't remember. I've gotten to go to Bahrain, to the Gold Souk, and to many other fabulous places that I know, had I not had the opportunity to go in the Marine Corps, I would have never seen. I've also been to Africa. I was in Somalia, and yes, I have seen combat. I can't read this question, so we're going to move to the next. Bear with me. Oh, my hobbies are reading, writing, love to write. Matter of fact, today I did my very first podcast. I did a podcast based off of a poem that I read on Mind Valley's Connect. A gentleman named Pete wrote a poem, and it moved me so that I actually used it to do my homework. And then after doing my homework, I thought I should answer the question that Pete asked. Pete asked the people that read his poem to imagine what it would be like to have this really awesome love relationship. Since that is not my current situation, I thought that's something I could address for my future self. So I did on my podcast. And I actually launched it today on Anchor. Pretty cool, huh? Something fun to do. What charges you up? What charges me up is meeting new people and getting the opportunity to help the voiceless have their voice be heard. Oftentimes, especially nowadays, people are afraid to say what they feel, or they're just too scared to open their mouths because they've been shut down for so long. So I find it really fascinating when I'm allowed to give voice to those people that ordinarily wouldn't have a voice. You know, those people that are often marginalized or overlooked. Here in America today, creating a safe space for people to speak their truth and be their authentic selves is something that we all should look forward to do. It's not always easy. On this program itself, you can see I've had several amazing guests. I've had the Zen teacher, Dan Tricarco, who is an amazing person all by himself. Many of the ladies that viewed this, and gentlemen, I'm told, continue to use his process for keeping their zen. I was also fortunate enough to have Lisa DeSharon. She gave us a lot of great tips on veterans resources, and you can always find Lisa prepared to give veterans resources at any moment. While we're thinking about some more questions that you may want to have, you could put in the chat box if you're looking on Facebook or on YouTube and ask a question, and maybe I can answer yours. But until then, let's take a commercial break, and I'll be right back. Welcome back to Editor's Desk. I'm your host, Brenda Warren. Sometimes things don't always work out like you want them to, but then when you least expect it, surprise! So I'm happy to say that my guest is here to join me after all. My guest, Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, is here with me here in the studio. And Betsy, how are you? She's going to come right back.
Finally working.
I'm so glad that we're going to get to talk, even if it's for a brief moment. I want our audience to get to hear because Dr. Betsy is a wellness doctor, and she's going to tell us exactly what a DO is. And because our time is cut short, I'm going to shut up and just let her tell you all about what she does.
Sure, and there are two types of doctors in the country that are allowed to practice medicine and do surgery. They're MDs and DOs. So a lot of people don't
Mhm.
recognize the DO, but it's really we all have gone to medical school, and it just depends on what university you graduate from. So I graduated from an osteopathic school, and the little bit difference is that we tend to have more of a whole body mind view of things.
Mhm. So I understand too that one of the big things that you've always talked about is our pelvic health issues. Now, I wanted to show you something I brought with me for when you came on because I know this to be my new best friend. Do you know what that is, Dr. Betsy? That is my
Yes, it's a
compact
compact.
mirror, right? And can you tell our viewers why this should be their, there you go, this should be their best friend as well?
One of the biggest problems is that 50% of women and 30% of men have a pelvic health problem at some point in their life. And a lot of us tend to ignore that area because of shame or guilt or just embarrassment. And so we had a fun conversation the other day about how
Mm-hmm.
really taking a mirror and looking at your private parts just to kind of get familiar with them, because your parts are with you all the time. So you're more likely to find something wrong than a doctor when you're just checking once a year. But some people are shy about looking, but really, you want to know what's normal so you can discover what's abnormal.
I think it's important because we talked about this. Why this mirror? You can do this in the privacy of your bathroom, in your bedroom. Do it on your back bench if you want to. I don't care. But the key is look at yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Could you tell us about your pelvic floor store? I understand you also have a website that's attached to that.
Sure, I have it's called the Pelvic Floor Store, and you can find it at thepelvicfloorstore.com. And really, the impetus for why I formed the Pelvic Floor Store was because there's so much confusion out there, and people don't know where to find reliable products. So it actually started out because of my patients. I wanted to find a place where they could go to find reliable products and just have one-stop shopping. Because unfortunately, some of these products are not sold on the Amazon. So we ended up putting them all in our store, from anything from pads to things for incontinence to supplements. So it was a place where we could find things that have been vetted by doctors or healthcare workers, so we could find a really good, reliable products.
What could you tell me? What is one of the most what do you call it? What is the I can't even think right now, Dr. Betsy, forgive me. But what is one of the most frequent complaints you hear from your patients?
It's interesting, but incontinence is a big problem. So that incontinence is when you leak or you pee and you lose your urine. It's a $20 billion a year industry. So though many people don't talk about it, it's incredibly common. It can start as early as in your 20s to by time you reach your 70s, there's more people walking around at any given moment having problems holding in their urine that has the common cold. So it's an incredibly common problem, and people just don't talk about it. And that's one of my missions, is to get people to start talking more and more about pelvic health disorders.
So you mean even a young woman could experience this situation and that it's not something to be embarrassed about. They should go see their doctors immediately to get something and there is a treatment for that?
It's especially when if it's something that comes on suddenly, it can be a sign of a urinary tract infection, but it's something that we can develop over time. And there's tons of different treatments. There's anything from changing your diet. There's certain foods that are very irritating to the bladder, such as coffee and alcohol, chocolate. So some of the good things that we would normally like to eat, they can be very irritating to the bladder. So then there could be exercises. We all think about doing your Kegel exercises, but there's actually
Mhm.
pelvic physical therapists that can teach you how to do your exercise properly, because about 85 people don't do those properly. So going to a specialist to teach you how to do them is a wonderful option. There can be supplements you can take, there's medications, all the way up to, we have out of my health center, Greenleaf Health and Wellness, we have a bunch of fun lasers, and we actually have a pelvic magnet chair that you sit on fully clothed, and it does your Kegel
Mm-hmm.
exercises for you at 80 times what you would normally be able to do.
Now, are Kegel exercises something that are easily taught to your patients? Is it something you could talk us through today, or is that something that has to be more hands-on?
Yeah, so I have a good friend, and the way he explains it is, if you were on national TV and you were trying to
Mm-hmm.
hold in a fart, or pass a gas, you want to hold in that gas, those are the muscles. You got to imagine you're holding it in because you don't want to embarrass yourself on national TV, pass gas. Those
Mm-hmm.
are the muscles that you want to tighten. Those are the ones that you want to do when you do your Kegels. So unfortunately, some people, when they think about doing their Kegels, they bear down and push, and you want to really think about tightening. And you can combination, just whenever you're at a traffic light or you're watching TV, just do 10 really tight of tightening up the floor, bottom of the pelvic floor. The other thing, if you find that too confusing, if you just sit on a chair and put a ball in between your legs, or roll up
Mm-hmm.
a blanket or put a pillow and squeeze, those will also activate your pelvic floor muscles and will do the same thing as the Kegels to help strengthen that.
So there's basically something that you can do anytime, anywhere, and should be done often. Now, is that also something that
Yes.
men should be doing?
Yeah, because it, unfortunately, as we age, we lose 30% of our muscle mass every year, starting in our 30s. So by time we're in our 60s, we really have problems with muscle everywhere in our body. And a lot of people think about going to the gym and working out, but you have to work out your pelvic floor muscles too, because if you don't use it, you definitely lose it. So for men, not only can it help with holding in their urine, but help it men and women holding in their stool, holding in gas. But these muscles can also help with pelvic function and in sexual function and staying vital later in life, because just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to give up that aspect of your life.
Now, I understand that you just reopened your wellness practice. Is there
Yes.
something special or special classes that you teach that can help us in this area?
Well, for women, we have a conference coming up. It's going to be a virtual conference in November 13th through the 15th, called the Happy Vagina Rally. And
All
so
right.
it's basically for perimenopausal and menopausal women, so women that are going through the change. And the theme is like, hey, you didn't get the menopause memo? Well, we have all the things you need to know about pelvic health, and have over 30 experts coming to talk about on the subject over the 3 days. And anybody can sign up for that. You can find that at I think it's happyvagina.virtualsummits.com. So, or if you go to my website at drbetsygreenleaf.com, we'll have information on there.
Now, when we were talking, we talked about how to get people more comfortable talking about their private parts. And I remember we discussed how pervasive the slang terms are being used in songs and media, and people would not use the actual anatomically correct words for our private areas. Is there anything special that you teach your patients in reference to that? It appears that Dr. Betsy has frozen for right now, so I see her on the screen. But in the meantime, we're going to come back to talking to me. I hope that we will get a chance where we won't have the technical difficulties and we can really flesh out the conversation that Dr. Betsy and I were attempting to have about your pelvic health. Because please know, pelvic pain is nothing to play with. I remember there was a time when I would have the worst cramps in the world, and I feared talking to my doctor, my mother, or my mate. Dr. Betsy makes it real easy for you to talk to her. I had a great conversation and I see she's back. Dr. Betsy, I think I was talking to you about how we talked about how pervasive it is for slangs to be used about our body parts. Uh, and I don't know how we can get women to be more comfortable talking about their private parts and their private part health. Do you have any suggestions to help our viewers that may be a little bit squeamish about their lady parts to come forward and talk to their doctors when they have problems, or better yet, even before?
You know, I think the biggest thing is we just have to get used to saying the words. So I encourage people saying the proper terminology for their pelvic parts frequently, because the more we say the words, the more comfortable we are about talking about it with our doctors, with our partners. And you have to understand that, especially when it comes to doctors, we're used to hearing all sorts of things. We're really kind of desensitized. To us, it's to help you. We're here to try to get you back on the right track. So don't think that you're the only one going through these problems. There's so many people in the world that have these issues. I mean, we're talking 50% of women and 30% of men. And I think that men number is grossly underestimated because I think it's just not reported as much. I think there's sometimes even more embarrassment amongst the men than there is about the women. But really just getting out there, talking about your problems. I try to do this with my children, because so that it's just a normal part of conversation, because you wouldn't be embarrassed to go talk to your doctor about your elbow. So we
Mm-hmm.
need to really just kind of bring up the conversation about our pelvic organs. So anything from the belly button down to down below to the thighs, that's your pelvic area. So all the organs in there: bladder, bowel, and then the genitals, which I'm not sure what we're allowed to say on TV, but yeah, you want to use the proper terminology and say it. Just, I'm hoping to start an Instagram challenge where we just get online and just yell out our favorite pelvic body part so people can get used to hearing the words and saying them.
I understand that your clinic is a wellness clinic. So, and since you're talking about pelvic health, and we know that a healthy pelvic area is important to uh, healthy sexual activity, does your clinic or your center also deal with that?
I'm sorry, I lost you there. Technical
Okay.
issues
I was
again.
saying I know that a healthy pelvic area is important to healthy sexual activity. Does your clinic help women deal with that as well? Because I remember when I came into the perimenopausal state, a male doctor simply told me, "You're getting old." Pretty much it was over. I choose not to believe that. Does your clinic address that with women as they enter this stage in their life?
Yeah, we basically address all areas of life, because one of the theories that I have is you can't separate things. If you're having a problem in the pelvic area, that may be a symptom of some larger problem. So we address everybody head to toe, all kinds of issues, because really, one of my things is that you're greater than the sum of your parts, and that's my podcast is called Sum of Your Parts. But it's really that we need to take everything into consideration: body, mind, spirit, to really have a healthy and wonderful life.
On your podcast, can you tell me some of the subjects that you discuss on the Some of Our Parts? Some of your
So
parts. Let
some
me
of
get
some
it
of your
correct.
parts, some of your parts is specifically for women's wellness, but really anybody can listen to it, because if you have a woman in your life, you want to know what we're talking about. But we've talked anything from inflammatory diets. We've talked about addictive foods. We've talked about pelvic health, my specialty. We have coming up. We have someone talking about fibromyalgia and body pain, aches and pains. Um, we cover any subject that's of concern, specifically to women, but we run the whole gamut of interest. And I have so many lovely experts that we bring on and sit down and chat with about their specialty.
Does your clinic also treat men, or are they sent somewhere else?
We do in our clinic. We do treat men. We do treat men from a whole wellness standpoint. So we have some wellness and anti-aging programs that we're doing here. So also weight loss. We do hair loss. We do pretty much a little bit of everything.
Now, Dr. Betsy, I think I mentioned to you, hair loss is really important to me. Although I do have braids, and this is probably going to be the last time I get to wear them because of the alopecia is starting to get to a level that is probably not safe for me to rock my braids anymore. But vanity has kept me having them hold on for dear life. Do you have any advice for women like me that as they hit this stage begin to experience this?
You know what? Definitely so for women, it's a lot easier because for women, there's actually about a 90% chance that you can reverse hair loss in women. But it's really a matter of looking at a bunch of different things. At first, we got to look at hormones. Then you have to take a look at, are there any other medical conditions that are causing these issues? And then the treatment options are wonderful, anywhere from diet and supplements to there's some different a whole range of topical lotions and shampoos that can be used. Even red light therapy. You see these little hats that have red lights in them. The red
Mm-hmm.
light will stimulate the tissue to be healthier. And when you do it in combination with some of the shampoos, and then they're actually where they take your blood, and it's called PRP, platelet rich plasma. They take the plasma out of your
Mm-hmm.
blood and they can actually inject it back into you, like into the scalp, and it will stimulate hair growth. It's actually a very good anti-aging therapy. So there's a whole range of options that can be done for hair loss, but you always have to start with looking at, make sure you're not eating an inflammatory diet. The biggest inflammatory issues with foods are dairy, sugar, gluten. Those tend to be the top three. And then make sure your body is getting enough nutrients. And they can actually test that to see if there's any kind of hormonal imbalances or nutrient imbalances.
So when you say
So
they can test for that, where would you go if we don't have a Dr. Betsy to get that tested?
yeah, I would look for somebody that practices, well, if they're not specifically practicing hair loss, then I would look for somebody
Hmm.
that practices either integrative medicine or functional medicine. And there's starting to become so many more people nowadays that are practicing that. It used to be kind of few, but now we're finding a lot more integrative or functional medicine doctors. So
Now, now, Dr. Betsy, we've talked about the pelvic health itself, and I thought, what advice would you give to the men and the women in their lives to learn about the pelvic area? Well, once again, those gremlins have started up. I think based on the time, y'all, this is probably all the time we're going to get to talk to Dr. Betsy. But I thank you all for bearing with me today. This has been an interesting day. Oh, there's Dr. Betsy one more time. Go ahead, give those men some tips before we call this a day, Dr. Betsy, because I tell you, I have a tip. I was thinking if you're a couple and the woman's squeamish, maybe the man can look and make sure that everything's okay. They can look at each other and figure out what's going on down there so they can keep it healthy and happy. What's your advice on that, Dr. Betsy?
I like that. I definitely think that's, not only becoming familiar with your parts, but becoming familiar with your partner's parts, so that if anything is out of alignment, you'll know. But I think, a healthy life, the basics are, and this goes with any disease state, that getting enough sleep, drinking enough fluids. 75% of Americans are dehydrated. So you're
Mm,
drinking enough fluids if your urine's clear. And just eating healthy food. if you need to know what's healthy, things that are ingredients, things that you would use to make other things. So fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, meats, fishes. So, if you go by, eat healthy, sleep, and drink fluids, that you got your basis down.
Dr. Betsy, I thank you for dealing with all of our technical difficulties and for showing up. And I just cannot thank you enough for your advice. How do we find you again so we make sure our viewers know before we end this?
Sure, you can find me at drbetsygreenleaf.com. And also you can check out thepelvicfloorstore.com.
Thank you, Dr. Betsy. Oh, and don't forget the podcast, y'all.
Yes, some of your parts.
Some of your parts. It's worth listening to. Well, it's been another great day here at the editor's desk. Thank you for bearing with me. When it's live, it's live. Remember, take care of yourself and make sure you check your parts or have somebody else do it for you. Be blessed, everybody. Have a great day.
The Editor's Desk is your number one place to motivate yourself, express yourself, and amplify your impact. Our amazing hosts and guests share their stories to help you get where you want to be and where you need to be.